Hey, hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom, and welcome to Million Dollar March. Wow, we're in March already. Isn't that crazy? And I was thinking about what do I want to create this month? How do I want to impact you this month? And I was like, well, I'm on a mission to create more millionaires. So we're focused this month on how to create $1 million business and what that looks like. So I've got 8 trainings for you, all specific to creating $1 million business over the course of this month. So we'll be going live in the She's Making an Impact Facebook group pretty much twice per week. And then this will obviously be on the She's Making an Impact podcast. So today we're going to be talking about what it really requires of you to hit $1 million. So what does that look like? One, do you have a goal to be a millionaire? Do you want to create $1 million business? Do you want that to happen this year? Because trust me, it can happen quicker than you realize once you get really intentional about setting that goal. So if you set the goal, we'll talk about how you can actually make this a reality over the course of this month, okay? So what would that look like for you if you were able to create $1 million business? What would that look like? What would that open up for you? How would things shift for you? What would be like the impact that you could make if you were able to create that? So I just want you to be thinking about, wow, this is actually possible. And if you're kind of far off from believing that, I was too when I first started my business. Like when I first started, I was in network marketing, and my first goal, I was 23 when I joined that company. Went to set my goals of how much I wanted to make, and my goal was $500 a week. Like that was my big audacious goal. But then I went to our summit, our annual convention, and I saw millionaires on stage, and I was like, huh, if they could do it, I could do it. So then I started just to dream a little bigger, think a little bigger. And it's evolved over the years. And as I hit like each incremental goal, so like my first goal was $500 a week, then it became $1,000 a week, then $2,000 a week. And then I kept kind of upping that goal as I hit it. But I started to get more belief in myself of realizing, whoa, I can actually do this. So what would open up for you? What would you be able to create if you had $1 million business? What Just think about like the different investments you'd be able to make, the impact that you'd be able to create. Like my husband and I, we were able to buy an equestrian property. We're able to buy land in Senegal. Like we're looking at 3 different plots of land right now that we're going to be buying in Senegal. We're meeting with Bob Goff's nonprofit to talk about funding a school in Senegal, like all these different things. So what would you be able to do? What would open up for you? So what does it require? I made like a whole list. What does it require to actually create $1 million business? It requires quite a few things. And I would totally be lying to you if I said this was easy. It's not easy. However, it's possible. It is possible. And if you can be focused, would be for thing number one, what it requires, you got to be focused. You got to understand and be really crystal clear what it is that you want. What is it specifically that you want? And get really crystal clear on that. So my husband and I, we know like we wanted the equestrian property. We wanted to buy the land in Senegal. We wanted to build a chicken coop. We want to build a school. Like we have these very specific goals and dreams. We have a vision of what we want to accomplish. So you got to be clear. You got to have that focus. You got to create that vision. So what is your vision? Okay. What else does it require? You have to be consistent. So ask yourself, how am I showing up? How often am I showing up? And am I showing up when I feel like it? Am I showing up when it's convenient for me? Or are you showing up on a consistent basis? Can your people actually count on you? Are you following through on what you said you were going to do? Okay. So our podcast, our email list, like we have been consistent emailing our list and uploading to our podcast every Monday for over 5 years now. We're almost on episode 400 of the She's Making an Impact podcast, which is crazy. So what it requires to hit $1 million, you got to be consistent. You can't just show up when you feel like it. You can't get momentum and work hard for like a month or two and then back off and say, oh, I'm busy or this needs to happen. Like you got to be consistent no matter what happens. And that doesn't mean that I'm a workaholic or that I don't take time off. I do. However, it's strategic. Like I just took off last week and I was chilling and resting and getting facials and massages and manicures and having that time off. However, I had batched ahead of time. So I already had podcasts in the queue. I had emails in the queue. My team was working and all these things, right? You got to have belief in yourself. You got to actually believe that you could do it. So if you don't believe that you can do it, what's in the way? And that's one of the things that you really have to work on. A book that we like on the podcast, this book has been brought up more than probably any other book. It's called The Big Leap by Gary Hendricks. Of we have subconscious blocks that are keeping us from where we want to go. And so we might be able to reach six figures, but then that's kind of like our thermostat level of where we feel comfortable. And then in order for us to go from six figures to, multiple six figures and then to seven figures, you're going to have to shift the way you think. I want to be really clear on this. And the beliefs that you might have a belief system that says, I can make $250,000 a year. But once you get to that, subconsciously you start to like freak out and you're like, oh my gosh, now I have more team. Now I have more responsibilities. Now I have XYZ. Right. And so the belief that you have, this is one of the things that you got to constantly be working on. And, when you hear people talk about imposter syndrome, it's so funny because I think every single person pretty much has imposter syndrome. And it's just a matter of showing up confidently and doing it anyways, even if you have doubts of, can I really do this? Right. I think everyone has those doubts, but they show up anyways. And so you got to work on your belief system. You got to work on the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And it's got to be one of those things of they're never going to go away. It's just you reach another level and then you got to work through those beliefs at that level in order to get to the next level. Does that make sense? Okay. Next thing you got to have, what it requires to hit $1 million is you got to be relentless. It's got to be one of those things of you're relentlessly pursuing your goal and you don't stop until you reach the goal. So a really good book for you to read if you're like, I'm kind of timid, I'm playing small, I'm not really following through, is Relentless. The book is called Relentless by Tim Grover. It's one of those things you just continue to show up, you continue to show up, you continue to show up, which brings me to my next thing. What it requires to hit $1 million is failure. You got to get so comfortable with failure and failing forward because it's a part of the game. Like I've really changed my perspective on running this business and I think of it more of like a game and it's like kind of like a puzzle and you got to get the right pieces into the right puzzle and make the right moves at the right time, right? And so you got to pursue failure if you want to actually reach that big scary, audacious goal that you have set for yourself. And you got to fail forward. It's like you try something, you're like, oh, well, that didn't go the way I wanted to. That's okay. What could we shift? What could we do differently? What's going to open up from this? And you look at the potential that comes out of that failure or the learning that comes out of that failure. It's a part of the game. And you got to get really comfortable with getting uncomfortable and actually pursuing that failure because ultimately that failure is going to lead to your success. If you need a book around that, I got books for everything. But if you need a book around that, it's Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And it's just going to help you reframe failure for you. Okay. What else does it require to hit $1 million? You need a killer offer that you can scale. A killer offer that you can scale. So for my next live on Monday, I believe I'm going to be helping you reverse engineer your $1 million year and help you figure out how much you need to make per month. What is that going to look like? But you need a killer offer that you can scale. So think about the offers that you currently have. Could you potentially scale that to $1 million? If not, we got to make a new offer or change up the offer that you currently have to make it something that you can scale to hit $1 million. And you can have more than one offer. So for us, like I'll share more about this with our next live, but we have like 3 core offers that have taken us to over $1 million. Okay. Next thing, what else does it require for you to hit $1 million? Team. You can't do it on your own. You're going to need team. And I don't remember which day it is, but I will be talking towards the end. No, my 3rd live next week, I'll be talking about the team that it requires to hit $1 million. But just have in your mind of I'm going to need team. I'm going to have to bring somebody on board that's going to support me in this vision. You can't do it alone. And the next thing of what you need is leadership. Because once you have a team, you got to be able to lead them effectively. This is one of the core areas that I'm seeing people struggle with right now that I'm like leaning into because I'm like, man, if I can help them with their leadership, like that's when they're going to really have a breakthrough and grow because then they're going to be able to empower their team to take over some of these little daily tasks that they don't need to be doing. Then they can focus on the vision and the bigger overall mission of their business. Then they're really going to grow to over $1 million a year. So leadership has to be one of the main things that you focus on in order to hit $1 million and above. Okay. Main leadership books, and I'll talk more about leadership books and other things like that. But John Maxwell, honestly, is like the go-to leadership expert in the world. And I've learned so much about leadership from him specifically. But you got to be thinking in your head of, I need to grow as a leader. I need to lead my team. Okay. Because that's going to be a huge part of it. Huge part of it. You can get to 6 figures just hustling on your own, no problem. Absolutely. But in order for you to get to 7 figures, you're going to need team, and you're going to need an effective team that is executing on the right activities that you need them to execute on for you to be able to grow. Okay. And the next thing, what it requires for you to hit $1 million is you just have to be, again, relentless, but also pursuing growth. You're either growing or you're dying. So if you hit 6 figures, you can't just get comfortable there and say, hey, I did it. You got to think, what's my next level of growth? What's my next level of opportunity to grow? What does that look like? So you have to be pursuing growth. Tony Robbins says you're either growing or you're dying. So you got to look at what is, and I'm always doing this, what's my next level of growth? And I'm always upping my investments into myself, into up leveling into different masterminds. And we'll talk more about that, like community, and having that be a part of your $1 million growth plan. But you got to be, write this down. I need to pursue growth. I need to pursue growth. Okay. So let's recap. What does it require to hit $1 million? Things that we touched on today. You got to be consistent. And as you write these down, you can like listen to this again, obviously, but as you write these down, I want you to think, what's the main one that I need to work on right now? You don't have to work on all of them. You just got to be thinking, what's the one thing that if I just worked on this over the next month, 2 months, 90 days, that I could have a massive breakthrough? Okay. So you got to be consistent. You got to have the belief that you can actually do it. You got to be relentless. You got to have clarity and have that vision. You have to pursue failure. You got to create a killer offer that you can scale. You got to have your team. You got to work on your leadership and pursue growth. So which one do you need to work on the most right now over the next month, over the next 60 days, over the next 90 days? Lean into that one. And then if you need support in actually making this a reality, just book a call with our team. Go to helpmecoachnow.com, and then you can book a free call with our team. We can support you, helping you create that growth plan for yourself to make this your reality. So just go to helpmecoachnow.com, and then we'll see you for our live number 2 on Monday next week. All right. Have a good one. Bye.